Hi everyone, my name is Genus.
Hello everyone, my name is Tu.
Hi, I'm Nith,
My name is Oliad Bacha.
Hello, this is Sotinas Ray from
and
From
Group
we are
Group
from
Group
17.
Group 17.
17.
In 2012, the Washington State Department of Corrections was alerted by a victim's family, who were informed of an inmate's early release. After doing their own calculations, they concluded the inmate was given too many credit hours. After further investigations from the Department of Corrections, I was made aware that there was a bug in the system that gave too many credit hours for inmates with good behavior. Due to a Supreme Court ruling in 2002 that stated that inmates were to be given good behavior credits in an attempt to shorten their sentences, this program was implemented. But over the course of 13 years, over 3,000 plus inmates were released early due to this glitch in the system, and was only resolved once the Washington State Department of Corrections was under new management in 2015.
The major impact of the oversight of this software led to around 3,200 prisoners being released prematurely over a span of 13 years. On average, prison sentences were cut by 49 to even 600 days of the original sentence. The consequences of letting prisoners go much earlier than the original prison sentence leads to people who did not deserve to have their prison sentences being cut short to go back into society without serving the time that they owe to society and potentially not letting them have enough time to learn their lesson on the crimes they committed. Another impact was that law enforcement has already spent time, effort, and resources to rearrest people who were released due to this software oversight. Now let's continue to Nat with the reasons for this oversight.
Continuing from the impact of software issues, the reason causing the problem to occur because of an incorrect formula calculation. The formula was known as good time credit or good behavior credit. The more credit the prisoner have, the more time is used in their sentence. To earn those credits, prisoner must avoid all major disciplinary infractions, including harming others and causing damaged property. So what went wrong was that the formula that was applied to the credit reduction was incorrect. When the software was updated to apply good time credit to the prisoner, it mistakenly overcredited to some prisoners for their good time behavior, reducing their sentence more than it was intended. As stated before, which could range from 49 to 600 days in reducing their sentence.
Well, you might be thinking, up to 600 days, that's not a lot. It may seem that way, but for prisoners who require specialized treatment, such as drug or mental health rehabilitation, losing those 600 days can be detrimental to their recovery. With that in mind, let us now examine how this whole situation breached the general principle of the ACM Code of Ethics. The first principle violated in this instance was Section 1.1, quote unquote, contribution to society and to human well being. This error clearly went against the principle as it is potentially compromise the safety and well being of society. As mentioned earlier, releasing inmates early may pose risks to the public due to the incompletion of their special rehabilitation, example, drug rehab or mental rehab. The second principle that was breached was Section 1.3, quote unquote, be honest and trustworthy. According to the SeattleTimes.com, the Washington's Department of the Corrections knew about these issues in 2012 and they planned to fix it, but they did not execute the fix until 3 years later. This broke the trustworthiness of the Department of Correction because since they technically swept the issues under the rug instead of announcing the issues and fixing it. However, who's responsible for all of this? Let us now look at the professional responsibility of the ACM Code of Ethics.
One code that was looked over was 2.1, strive to achieve high quality in both the processes and product of professional work. The people who made or were monitoring this software could have been more thorough with checking in with the software and making sure it's not faulty, since any mistakes with the algorithm could lead to prisoners being returned to society who did not deserve to, creating both injustice and dangers to others. Another code that was forgotten was 2.4, accept and provide appropriate professional review. Ever since the software was introduced, it was neglected by the Department of Corrections for an extended period of time. with no one ever checking if the algorithm is faulty until it's too late. Even when they found out about it, they swept it under the rug. Now let us move on to the leadership principles of the ACM Code of Ethics by Janas.
That being said, we must finally pivot to the professional leadership principles that were breached which could have prevented this bug. Principle 3.1 of the ACM Code of Ethics clearly states that the public good should always be an explicit consideration when evaluating tasks, which was clearly violated, as Neith mentioned earlier, that the Department of Corrections took 3 years to fix this issue, with attempts delayed 16 times. There ought to be a responsibility for leaders to abide by this principle. If the public good truly was a central concern to protect society from those who still need to serve their time, these delays would have either never happened or their resolution been one of the top priorities. Indeed, this is what Principle 3.2 states. Leaders should encourage full participation of computing professionals in meeting relevant social responsibilities and discouraging tendencies to do so otherwise. Yet this was not the case of just 1 or 2 delays for a given reason, but 16, of which the Corrections Secretary stated that they are still uncertain of why. If there had been difficulties associated with fixing this, then they would have immediately been able to recite such, thus being clear and transparent, but they were not. Thus, the violation of the Code of Ethics was a large contributor in this case. Finally, let's move on to the conclusion.
As we have seen, the software issue that led to the release of 3,000 prisoners early had significant impacts on the society, law enforcement, and prisoners themselves. The failure in calculation of good behavior credits not only affect the prisoner's sentence's duration, but also raise a question about effectiveness and the reliability of the current system.
Furthermore, the delay in fixing the problem and lack of transparency and accountability were unacceptable and went against the principle and responsibility that should be upheld.
In conclusion, this case serves as a reminder of the importance of the ethical consideration in the field of computing and the need for a responsible leadership and accountability. The consequence of failing to uphold this principle can be severe and affecting not only the individuals directly, but also society as a whole. It is our hope that the lesson can be learned from this case to prevent similar issues from occurring in the future. Thank you for joining our discussion.